We had a client that we worked with, and she was really struggling with profitability. She kept raising tuition. She actually did 3 tuition increases within a 15-month cycle, and she still could not catch up. So I helped her work with our 6 money leaks in schools, and she only used 3 of the 6 money leaks and cut her expenses by 50%. 50. She did not fire anyone. She did not slash any of her programs, and she did not work more hours. Again, the 6 money leaks are not hacks or spreadsheets. These are patterns. They are small decisions that feel so normal that your school does, but they quietly drain your school's profit. So if you've ever wondered why you're working so hard, but still not seeing the return, this is your first step to clarity. Click the link in the show notes and find out what it's actually costing you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Schools of Excellence podcast. Today, I am so excited to kick off a brand new series called the New School Playbook, 5 Power Plays to Attract, Engage, and Retain Families. This is a 5-part series where we're going to be tackling some of the critical challenges around attraction, engagement, and retention of families. So in an era of school choice, free pre-Ks, changing family dynamics, excessive digital communication, all the old rules of family engagement, of marketing, of retention, they're just not going to cut it. We need a different way to be able to stand out, and we have to know how to understand our families, which is why I'm creating this series, because leaders are not just looking to bring families in. They want to be able to connect meaningfully, and they want to be able to build lasting loyalty. So whether you are struggling with enrollment, family participation, community building, you're in the right place. Each episode, I'm going to be diving into one of the 5 power plays. I'm going to share with you each of them right now, and then we're going to dive into the first power play in today's episode. So what are the 5 power plays for attract, engage, and retain families? Number 1 is know your families. Number 2, speak their language. Number 3, be where they are. Number 4, train the troops. And number 5, sync, connect, and sustain. So in each of these episodes, we're really going to be uncovering how to leverage these power plays so that you can really build a sustainable, repeatable, streamlined system to attract the families that you want. So let's dive into the first power play, which is know your families. All right. Now, I know what you might be thinking, and you're saying, Chanie, I know my families. I see them at drop off. I see them at school events. I read their surveys. I talk to them all the time. But here's the thing. I want to challenge this assumption for a minute, because in a world where the only constant is change, in a world that is changing so quickly, we think that we have this knowledge, but it's really not sufficient because it changes so fast. And because things change so fast, we have this one moment where we're like, oh, it's all good. I have a waiting list. I have this. And then just gets wiped out. And there's this real illusion of what it means to know our families or understand them. So for decades, leaders have really relied on a lot of traditional methods to understand their families, right? To really know their families. Whether you've done annual surveys, parent-teacher conferences, casual interactions, what happens is these methods really create this kind of illusion of understanding. Because you have some basic data points of like occupation, number of children, some involvement in school activities, you kind of have this illusion like, I know my families, I got this. But if you want to navigate the map of family interactions in today's world, there's a lot of crucial details and nuances that you're really missing. So I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story about a director. We'll call her Sarah. And she ran 2 locations in a very wealthy neighborhood. And she always had a wait list. Like she never, ever, ever struggled with attraction or retention. And what happened is things started to shift slowly and enrollment numbers started to dip, but like she wasn't too concerned about it. She was like, whatever, it's okay. Like she still had this big wait list. She still had all these things going on. All of a sudden, parents started to leave in bigger droves, and families that had been fixtures in her school community for generations, they started to choose other options. And she's like, 1 second, like, why is what I've done until now not working anymore? And the thing that we have to understand is that Sarah's experience is like really far from unique. Like, again, I say this to clients all the time. I talk to school leaders every single week, not in group format, although I do it in group format also, one-on-one. And the reason why meeting with leaders one-on-one is because you hear the nuances and the struggle in a way that you cannot hear it when you're in an echo chamber of Facebook groups or even events. Like talking to people one-on-one, people will share their vulnerability of what's actually happening. And that is why I keep my pulse on what's happening in this industry. Even though I have a team, even though I have other success coaches who work on our team, I still talk to leaders all the time. That is the only way to keep your pulse on what is actually happening in the industry. That's how we're able to forecast all of these things that are going on and create phenomenal resources for our members. So let's look a little bit at how the families that we serve today are fundamentally different from how they were even 6 months ago, right? So, but let's go all the way back, even 5, 10 years ago, right? Family structures have completely shifted, right? The nuclear family is just no longer the norm, right? We are seeing a surge of single parent household, blended families, same sex parents, multi-generational homes. All of these structures come with unique needs and expectations. And so, you might think you know your families, but things have really shifted. We had a member that we are working with. She lives in a suburban area in the Northeast. And she was talking about how she was struggling with enrollment a little bit. And I said, well, talk to me a little bit about some of the landscape. Like, how is the landscape in your town shifted? And she's like, oh, there's all these high rise buildings being built. And we were actually lobbying against them, but now they're here. And so now, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm joining. I said, 1 second. When you live in a really suburban neighborhood and then all of a sudden all these high rise buildings are coming up, you ain't living in suburbia anymore. Like your town is becoming much more urban and much more city like, which means the city is going to start attracting a family that wants a city life, maybe alongside a suburban life, but wants a city life, which means your marketing, your messaging, your material, the families that you're attracting has to shift because you're talking to a different demographic. Now, it doesn't mean that her entire demographic has shifted, which we'll talk about in the next episode. Culture diversity is no longer what we kind of used to think it was, right? Our communities are so diverse. It's not just about ethnicity. It's values, traditions, educational expectations. You can have, 6 families all coming from the same ethnicity, but they all value different things. They all have different traditions and they all have wildly different educational expectations. Economic realities have shifted dramatically since the pandemic, right? The wealth gap is only widening. The middle class keeps shrinking, which means more families are juggling multiple jobs, dealing with financial stresses, and facing housing insecurity. And so, again, when I talk about know your families, this is the reality that we're facing, right? Technology and communication. Families are expecting instant personalized communications across multiple platforms, right? The annual newsletter or the occasional phone calls are just inadequate. Like it's beyond inadequate, right? So educational priorities also have shifted. You have a diverse group of families. Some people are really looking for social emotional learning. Some people are looking for, are you preparing my children for this uncertain future job market? Some parents are asking about academics. Like things have shifted dramatically. So you might be thinking, okay, honey, this all sounds great. Where do I start? What does it mean for me to know my families? So I'm going to break down just a couple of quick action steps here. And again, in our Schools of Excellence program, we really dive into this entire framework of how to know your families. And we have a 5-step process to help you understand how to decode all of these things. And we have templates, enrollment forms, and all of these things so you can get the right data. But let's get started with just some action steps you could take. Number 1 is a quick family insight journal. Just start a daily practice where once a day you write an insight about a family in your school. It could be something as simple as you notice that this group of parents prefer this communication style, or you learn something different about this family's cultural tradition. Aim to put in about 1 to 2 entries a week. That's how you start to gather some more anecdotal data on how to know your families. The thing I always tell clients you have to remember is like, you think you're going to remember these little details. You're not, right? I had a conversation with my EA executive assistant, and we were talking about something. And I said, here's the thing you have to understand when you're tasking me with a project when you're coming into a meeting with me, when I'm being like tasked with like, hey, can you record X, Y, and Z? Anytime you're tasking me with that, assume I know nothing. Assume I remember nothing from our conversation even 2 hours ago. The level of specificity and detail that you need to put into the task so that I could go and do it has to be so granular. Assume I remember nothing, because in the reality is I remember a lot of things when it comes to clients. Like I remember a client's spouse's name, their dog's name, their kids' names, where they're located. I remember lots of details there. But when it comes to like a meeting structure or something, I'm going to forget that I said this or that or whatever it is, because I have to be able to create a compartment because I'm responsible for so many things. And the reason why I always tell our clients this is because stop thinking you're going to remember. You're not. You're going to forget. Write it down in a journal entry, these interesting insights. Another simple thing you could do is just start hosting some virtual coffee chats. If you could do it in person, that's the best. There's nothing in the world that will ever replace the human connection of actually being in the same energetic vibration of another human being, right? And start those conversations where you can connect with families and they can share their thoughts. They can share their experiences, their stories. Make it casual, make it welcoming, right? Your goal is not to present or solve problems. Your goal is to listen and learn. And I know the fixer in you, the entrepreneur in you, the CEO in you wants to solve everyone's problems. Just be quiet. Just listen. That's really what this is about. So I hope today's podcast episode was helpful to you. It's the first power play. Know your families. Get started on this trajectory. And next episode is going to be about speaking their language and understanding how to communicate with your families. Thanks so much for joining me.
If your accountant has ever told you to cut back on professional development or slash your teacher appreciation budget or your staff development budget just so you could stay afloat, or has told you, hey, you probably can't go invest in that program, please listen. The problem is not that you're spending too much money on your people or yourself or your investment or your support system. It's that your school has invisible money leaks that are draining your profit, leaks that no spreadsheet will ever catch or accountant. So I created the 6 money leaks of schools that show you the 6 core areas that schools lose money every single month without realizing it. If you close even one of them, your profits will start to soar without sacrificing your team. Go get it now and stop blaming the things that are actually building your school.